iPhone, right? I turned it on, and the last thing I watched was the video, like the night before, or 2 nights before that, and I know that's the last thing I did on my iPod. So when I turned my iPod on, this was on there. What's your reason? And I went there and I'm like, all right, Lord, I don't know how much more I can take in one night, What's my reason, All right, my reason is I'm not the man I should be, basically, with the video. So I watched the video, and like I said, I had this calmness come over me and this peacefulness, because I said, I walk with the Lord. So I watched that video, and 10 minutes later, I'm like, all right, I'm thirsty, I need to go get a drink of water. So the iPod, like the iPhone, that's your home screen, right, with all the icons on it. And I put it down on my counter in the kitchen, and I went to get a glass, and when I came back, that was on the screen. Now, the only way to get from that home screen to that screen is you grab it up on the top and pull it down, right? And it said no new notifications. So when I saw that, I'm like, all right, the Lord's done with me for tonight. No more notifications are gonna come my way. I'm okay, So after that, I would say in May of 2015, around 10:30 at night, we get a knock on the door. And my wife goes look at the door, she goes, I don't know who that is. And I looked through the window, and it was this guy, Larry. And I only knew Larry because he walked his dog about the same time I walked my dog. He probably didn't know my last name, I definitely didn't know his last name. And he goes, hey Steve, he goes, I hate to bother you at this time of night, but do you have $25 I can borrow? I'll pay you back tomorrow, because I didn't know if he was locked out of his house that he lived with his mom, or he was locked out, like, you're not coming back in, So he said, I need a train ticket to go to my aunt's house up in Newark. I go, yeah, Larry, no problem. So I go upstairs, I get the $25, I hand it to him, he goes, oh man, thanks Steve. He goes, I'll get it back to you tomorrow, man, you're blessed. And I go, yeah, I know I'm blessed. This is right after, I know I'm blessed, So about a week later, I'm at a job, and I'm in a cafeteria getting lunch. I'm a land surveyor, so I work all around. I happen to be at Roche up in Clifton at this time. They had a cafeteria open for us. The lunches were great. They were like $5. I'm in line, and all of a sudden I go, oh, I don't have my wallet. So the guy behind me goes, I got your lunch, don't worry about it. I said, no, I have my wallet, it's just out in my truck. I just don't have it with me. He goes, don't worry about it. So he hands me $10. So I go, all right. I said, how long are you gonna be here? And he goes, oh, I'll be here about an hour. I was really saying, like, how long are you gonna be on the job site? Because I'd never seen him before. He goes, no, I'll be here about an hour. So I went out and I got the money, and I bought him the $10 back, and I told him a little bit about my dream and a little bit about my story at that point. And I told him how, and what I thought was, okay, you know what? I loaned Larry money, he's loaning me money, so this is kind of how it works, right? So I gave him the $10 back, and I thanked him, and I never saw him again. Never saw him in the cafeteria at all. And I never saw Larry again either, so basically my wife's like, well, why did you give him money? I said, because I saw somebody with a need, and I fulfilled it, and $25 isn't gonna break me, So if it's, a matter of paying the rent or the mortgage, then yeah, I'll keep the $25 maybe, but it's not gonna break me. So I don't know what Larry did with the money, and it's not really my concern what he did with the money. It was just that I helped a human being out that needed some money. And then June 1st, I actually woke up again at 2:22 with my dog scratching on the wall. So there's a lot of 222s. I'm gonna leave quite a few of them out. But I'll go to, June 19th of 2015, my son's graduation from high school. And he's our only son, our only child, and to me, being an only child in all these, I'll call them life steps, they kind of affect me a little bit. So him graduating high school and going on to the next part of his life was hitting me, right? And my mom is in a assisted living, and growing old in this country, not good. It's tough, and it breaks my heart that she has to be in a place like that, and she absolutely hates it, hates it. She talks about everybody, blah, 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 blah. So she came to the graduation, and we're sitting in this full set of bleachers, and it's like 85 degrees out, everybody's sweating. My mom goes, Steve, I really need the bathroom. And I'm going, there's no way I can get down and get you back up here, And she goes, but I really have to go. I said, Mom, you gotta hold it, right? And we were gonna go get something to eat after that. So basically when you check somebody out of assisted living, you need to let the front desk know. so that they have something left for them to eat afterwards. So after the graduation, we didn't have time because they was Senior Smash, I think it was called, at Branchburg Sports Club. Basically, they take all the high school graduators, all the high school seniors who graduated, and they take them to Branchburg Sports Complex and chaperone them, so they know there's no drinking and no partying and stuff like that. So we didn't have time because Tyler had to get back to the bus. So I said to my wife, I go, all right, and actually Aaron and his dad came to the graduation as well, and so did one of my nieces. So we couldn't go out to eat, so I said to my wife, I go, oh, you take Tyler back to the high school so he can get the bus. I'll take my mom back to her place. Now, you know, I don't know, we started at maybe 4 o'clock in the afternoon and it's 9 or something, so she hasn't had anything to eat. And I pulled up under the vestibule, I brought her in, I went to the nurse's station, I said, okay, you know, we got screwed up, we didn't have any dinner, you know, do you have a sandwich for her? So took her into her room, made sure she ate some of the sandwich, got her settled and everything. And I came out into the car, and I thought about it, I'm like, wow, you know, for want of a better word, I'm sorry, it sucks growing old in this country. And I thought that, and then I thought, wow, my son graduated high school, he's on to another stage of his life, and I just had this like anxiety come over me, and I just said, you know what, Lord, just fill me with the Holy Spirit and take away this anxiety, ease this anxiety for me. And the tears were welling up in my eyes, and they were just about ready to you know, drop out of the corners of my eyes. And I reached into the glove box, and I took this Chipotle napkin, and I dabbed this eye, and I dabbed that eye, and when I moved it away, Christ's face, Jesus' face, right in the corner of the napkin, you know? And it was like, look at it, see it, and then look again, and it's gone, you know? So I said, wow, you know, the prayer works too. You know, I'm getting answers to things. Excuse me. So in the end of October of 2015, when I wish Gunther was still here and all the Yankee fans out there, is when the Mets were in the World Series, 2015. And I wound up with prostatitis, and I was in the hospital. First time ever admitted to the hospital, first time ever staying overnight in the hospital. And when I came home the next day on the 1st of November, I was taking a shower. It was about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and I'm taking a shower, and we have a window in our shower, so there's an extra curtain there that, you know, you got the shower on your back. Wow, this warm water feels so good, and I'm looking at the curtain. All of a sudden, I see this, like, image starting to appear. And it was an image, and, you know, I look at it, I look away, I look at it, I look away, and it was an image of an adult, I'll say. I could see the torso and the face, and the head, not, you know, features of the face, and the arms, handing something to a child or a younger person who was reaching up for it. And I thought to myself, I thought to myself, I'm like, okay, so that's an adult or an older person handing something to a child or a younger person. And I kind of let it go. And then the next day at dinner, my wife tells me of somebody she works with. She's actually Indian, and she's in the country, and her son is at the time was very, very sick. And they couldn't afford the treatment for her. So she said, my wife said, you know what, they're taking up a collection for Delcy and her son. You know, how much do you want to give? And, you know, I'm going to mention this in my closing thing, is that, you know, when you give, you're supposed to be humble about it. You're not supposed to brag, and I'm not bragging. But she said a number, and I go, no, we'll give more. And then I went, wait a minute. I saw that vision yesterday in the shower of me handing him something. So it's just, you know, reaffirming things for me, visions. I have a friend of mine that tells me the mind sees what it wants to see. So maybe that's the case, but I know I see these things. I see them clear as day. So we gave the money for Delcy and her son, who is doing much better now. He had some type of cancer, I don't remember. And then the 23rd of December 2015, I woke up at 2:21. I turned to look, and it turned 2:22. And when I turned back over, my arm just flung over and hit my wife in the head. And she's like, what the? And all of a sudden I felt somebody poke me on the palm of my hand 3 times. So I'm like, okay, here we are with the 222 already. I'm like, I get it. I get the 222 part. Christmas Eve day, I turn on my iPod again, remember those old things, at 2:22 p.m. So this 222 is just a recurring theme for me. 222. So again, the King James Version is, flee also youthful lust, but follow righteousness, faith, charity, peace with them that call on the Lord out of a pure heart. So I started going to myself, let me find other relevant 222s through the Bible. And what I found was Paul's letter to the Ephesians, chapter 2, verse 22, and it says, in him, this is in NIV version, and in him you too are being built together to become a dwelling in which God lives by his Spirit. So I said, okay, so I'm being built, and I've been being built for many, many years here, but now it's really starting to hit me. So Christmas Eve, we went up to Millington Baptist Church, which we've gone to a couple times with friends, and really nice Pastor Peter Pendel was there. I know he's been here a couple times, and we really liked him, so we went up there Christmas Eve, and again, I'm a C&E'er at this point still, and I go to Christmas Eve, and I had every intention of going back the following Sunday, but I never went, and I was kind of disappointed in myself for not going. So then the following week, something else comes up, and then basically Sunday mornings for me were hopping on my motorcycle with a couple friends and going riding. And I called it the Church of Harley Davidson. I said, this is all I need, you know? And I can't tell you how many times we rode by here, and I never even gave a thought of coming here. Until March 9th of 2016, which is when my cousin, Craig always, even though he was my wife's cousin, Craig always, when he introduced me to people, he goes, my cousin Steve, you know? So I don't know if anybody recognizes Craig from here. A couple of people do that I talked to. So we went to his memorial service, and I had gone to a memorial service a couple weeks before that, and I you know, how they ask anybody in the congregation or that's attending if you want to say anything, and Tyler and my wife Marcy are sitting there with me, and it was my neighbor who passed away, and one of his son's friends like made a perfect segue for me to say something, and I was sitting there and my legs were shaking, my heart was beating, and I couldn't get up and say it. So we were going to the repast, my wife and I, and the priest, the Lutheran priest actually said, if you have a long story, save it for the repast, not here during the service. So I go, oh, I got a second chance. I can tell, you know, the story about Joe. And we're in a parking lot for the restaurant for the repast, and my wife goes, you know, I'm really not feeling well, not feeling up to going. So I didn't get my chance to tell my story. So I said to myself, I go, all right, I'm never gonna let that chance slip by again, you know, because I want to be able to say something. So for Craig's service, Craig was, he was adopted, he was raised Jewish, he found Christ, I'm not exactly sure when. He started out at Faith Fellowship Church, then he wound up at ZCC, and he lived on Mountain Avenue in Bound Brook, and for a time, Pastor Rob was renting a house right behind him, and they both had motorcycles in common as well as, you know, the church. So me and my wife and I, Craig and Pastor Rob, were more than just, you know, member at the church and pastor. They were kind of friends. So we reached out to Rob to do the service, and he wound up leaving a message on our voicemail and our home phone with a number, and he said, oh, absolutely, I'll do it. And my wife wanted a rabbi as well, so she reached out to a rabbi, and I think 2 nights before, 1 or 2 nights before the service, I hear my wife on the phone with the rabbi, and the rabbi's like, well, does anybody in your family want to say anything? And she goes, yeah, my husband does. And I'm like, all right, cool, that's okay. So we show up at the Life Center for the service, and the rabbi comes up to me, and he goes, so, I understand you're doing the eulogy? And I'm like, what? Again, with the what? You know? And I'm like, I am? And he goes, well, your wife said you wanted to say something. He goes, do you have anything prepared? And I'm like, yeah, I got little notes, you know. He goes, then you're doing a eulogy. I'm like, okay. So Pastor Rob and Pastor Raphael were there, which we weren't expecting Raphael. And, you know, we had the service, and I did the eulogy, and afterwards, you know, I told some